Good morning, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the court, members of the jury. We are gathered here today to shed light upon a case of responsibility, that is responsibility for one's own actions, and that of murder. Murder of 3 innocent victims: William Frankenstein, Henry Clerval, and Elizabeth Frankenstein. Murdered by the monster. The monster is in fact guilty. He is guilty of murder. Now, some might argue that even though Mr. Frankenstein created the monster, he's not a guardian of the monster. The monster went on by himself. Hence, the monster is responsible for committing those crimes. Also, some might argue that the monster's depression triggered his anger against Mr. Frankenstein. I strongly disagree. But it is true that the monster's sole purpose of his existence was so that he could seek revenge against Mr. Frankenstein, which he has proven all throughout the book. Also, some might argue that the monster is criminally insane. But again, I strongly disagree. He studied books, he studied society, he studied the DeLacy family, and he learned from society, so he must know that what kind of behavior is acceptable to society, and yet he committed those crimes. Hence, the monster is guilty. Thank you.
Order in the court. There is no clapping in the court. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, is it also true that you never created the monster in order to harm society?
That's true.
Was the monster, you never trained the monster or taught the monster to harm society?
That's true.
I will be with you on your wedding night. Did you or did you not say these words to Mr. Frankenstein?
Yes.
It was the monster's need to seek revenge against Mr. Frankenstein that made him really, really angry, and that made him hate Mr. Frankenstein for creating him in the first place. Even though Mr. Frankenstein might have created the monster, he was never his legal guardian. Hence, he could not instill any values in him. He could not teach him any lessons. He was left to himself. Hence, he should be held responsible for his own actions.
We found that society and the monster were not guilty. Jared is guilty of manslaughter in the first degree, gross negligence of information, withdrawing information from the authorities.
The monster, as you all know, was created by Victor Frankenstein out of male dead body parts. Victor created me because he wanted to further his scientific career, and he was quite curious. However, for the deaths of Elizabeth, William, and Henry, I believe that I am guilty. I own up to my actions, and I take responsibility for it. For William's death, I even stated, "His death will carry despair to him, and 1,000 other miseries shall torment and destroy him." So obviously, I knew what I was doing when I killed William. I was trying to get back at Victor Frankenstein. At another part, when I was even responsible for the murder of Justine, because it was I that framed her with the portrait. At one point, I said, I bent over her and placed the portrait securely in one of the folds of her dress. This is proof that I indeed did plant the evidence on Justine. Then at the end, after Frankenstein was already dead, I was speaking to Robert Walton, and I said, "But it is true that I am a wretch. I have murdered the lovely and the helpless. I have strangled the innocent as they slept and grasped to death his throat, who never injured me or any other living thing." This quote pretty much sums up how I felt about myself, and it is me acknowledging that I am the true criminal of these murders. Now, I acknowledge that with the death of William, some would say that that was done out of anger and impulse towards society and Victor Frankenstein. However, by the time I committed the murders of Henry and Elizabeth, my mind had already fully developed and I was quite intelligent, thus being aware of my actions, which is why I believe I'm responsible.